You're about to tap into the fan's perspective, where all things entertainment are talked about by the fans who love them the most. Now let's dive in with your host, Chris Laporta. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Fan's Perspective, courtesy of StarsandCelebs.com, where you can get all of your entertainment news, read some celebrity quizzes, read some celebrity interviews, and play some quizzes. And also, there's some other great podcasts for you to check out, StarsandCelebs.com. Also, don't forget about Chud.com for all you horror enthusiasts. Yeah, The Fan's Perspective is coming at you now on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe on YouTube and also on Instagram, Fans Perspective Pod, where you can communicate with me and leave all your comments there. My name's Chris Laporto, and I am back one more time to talk about one of my favorite, definitely, franchises of all time, definitely my favorite superhero, and that's Batman, and him celebrating not only 80 years this year, but we're going to be talking about the 1989 movie directed by Tim Burton. But I'm not alone this week. I got a very good friend of mine. I'm excited to have him on. Without further ado, Sean, thank you for joining me this week.
Yo, how's it going, man? It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so first things first, I got some guest questions for you.
Sure.
I said Batman's my favorite. Who's yours?
Favorite,
my superhero? Yeah.
Oh, man. Let me see. There's so many of them. Are we sticking to the DC universe, or are we going to Marvel universe as well?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay, man. All right, man. So I would have to say it's a cross between Black Panther and Batman. There's few similarities between the two, but on the spectrum, both of them have their own stance and their own backstories, which I gravitate to a lot. There's a very human, emotional aspect to both of them.
Yeah, I think what draws me to Batman so much is just not only is he a badass, but I'm always been more drawn to darker content.
Oh, okay.
And that's what Batman is, and he's just, I don't think there's a character that's like him throughout comics, maybe even like literature, at all. So, and his stories are always the more interesting ones, I think.
Yeah, they are, and there's purpose to them too. You know what I'm saying? It's not just like your classic punch this person and stop the bad guys. You know what I'm saying? There's so much deeper meaning into it, and the writers that they usually choose to write his stories, they always hit the nail. Especially in the animated series, I just love them.
Oh yeah, the animated series was great, and we'll talk about that too. You said Black Panther. I've always thought Black Panther was a really cool character, but my favorite Marvel character was always Colossus from the X-Men.
Nice.
Yeah, I've always loved him. I know that he's kind of flies under the radar, I feel like.
I mean, he's dope. He got some dope ass powers too. So
no, he definitely does. All right, moving on. So, favorite Batman movie?
My favorite one would be The Dark Knight. I think everybody, like the majority of people, would agree to that. But it definitely is The Dark Knight, man.
Yeah, it kind of goes without saying. So, Dark Knight's number one. What would you say is number two then?
Maybe Batman Return.
Really?
The thing about Batman Return, yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. I know a lot of people, shit on it a lot. I don't know if you can curse on this, but I know a lot of people just did not enjoy it because of a lot of change to the main characters and villains. But I just enjoyed it as a Batman film. I just sat back and enjoyed the ride of it. You know what I'm saying? The story could have been a little bit better, but I could see it coming a second. And maybe third would have been the original Batman because of that, I mean, it pretty much started everything, including the animated series. And it's like there's so many things involved into the original that, we can pay homage to in every single one of the others that came after it,
Yeah, no, I agree with you on Batman Returns. I kind of don't get why it's not well received, because I do think that it's a good Batman movie. The changes to the Penguin, I think that's really the biggest change as far as characters. I get why Tim Burton did it. First of all, that's just his style
Yeah.
of storytelling, so I get it. But I was able to kind of look past it and just watch the movie. Like Michelle Pfeiffer was really good as Catwoman.
Yeah, it was fun. Some people take things too serious sometimes, and there's you know what it is again. It's like people compared it to the original, so I think they were expecting something, and then because they didn't get what they expected, they just like they just bombed the whole thing. But I think it in perspective of the franchise, I think it did good. You know,
Oh
the
yeah, no,
penguin was definitely good in that one. A little creepy, but it was good.
yeah, a little creep, but Danny DeVito was great
Yeah, he was
in
he
that
was
role.
dope in that, man. There's no argument on that one.
All right, favorite villain, is it the Joker?
You see, now in the film wise, I would have to say the Joker because man,
Heath
in the
Ledger,
dark
I mean.
yes, in the Dark Knight, he did his thing. But in the comic book perspective, my favorite villain in the Batman series was always Two Face because the perspective of how he saw the world was so different from all the other villains that they ever had. And you know how the writers in Batman do it. Like they have to go into the minds of the criminals and they kind of let you see why the villains are doing the things that they do. And for Two Face, to me, I could see why he was mad at the world and he wanted to do the things that he did.
Mhm.
And if you look at how they did him when they introduced the Joker in the Dark Knight, it was kind of a ballsy move to actually put two villains in there. But I could see the perspective of how they did that. And it was kind of cool seeing both of them there at the same time and how the Joker was using him. He was using one of the soft spot with Two Face to actually manipulate him into doing his own bid. Like he was just like another piece of the chess. And the Joker itself as a villain in the movie franchise, like there's no words for that. Like that was just like super super dope. The again, I really gravitate towards good storytelling, and I feel like they really did him justice in the writing. You know what I'm saying? The different stories Joker had for the scars on his face, you know what I'm saying? The reasoning why he had to do what he did, and just the sheer genius of how he plot everything together, trying to make Batman make decisions to break him, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
then, like there was so many things in there with so many levels. And even to this day, like sometimes people tell me things about this and I'm like, I never even saw that. Like went over my head totally.
Yeah, I think we've like for me, it's probably the Joker, my favorite Batman villain, and we've had the pleasure of watching multiple actors play the Joker to perfection, but in different ways.
Right.
Like Jack Nicholson, his Joker, I don't think you can compare to Heath Ledger's Joker. I know people like to like play with who's better,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people nowadays say Heath Ledger. But
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson was so great in that role because his was a little bit more the Joker I think that we're used to, before Heath Ledger. It was the comedic type of crazy where Heath Ledger was just insane.
And
Um,
another thing with that was the Joker from the 1989 Batman. What actually was the thing that he used as like a baseline that he could draw that character from? Was there anything that he used apart from the comic book?
when I was researching, I didn't really see a lot that Jack Nicholson did to research, but I know that they looked at a lot of the stuff that Frank Miller wrote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean Nicholson did his thing, man. I'm not gonna lie about it. Although he was himself before he was Joker in the beginning,
Right.
he was pretty much himself. But then again, he was typecasted just for that, so it just made sense. The chemistry was great.
Right. And also
Yeah,
the reason why we see kind of the origin story uh, in the Tim Burton Batman movie is because that was taken from a comic, Red Hood. Because before Joker was Joker, he was known as Red Hood.
right.
So, at which something that and as much as I love comics, I never even really caught on to that until preparing for this. So,
Yeah, Red Hood himself and in the series, in the comic and the animated series is pretty good. I didn't even know that part too. So that's pretty dope, man. You just told me something.
Does Batman have the best villains, you think, out of any comic character?
Oh man, yo, I'm gonna tell you straight up. Again, it's just like the human perspective and things that they do, man. So I would say he does, like, in a sense, he does have, compared to a lot of other people. As I said, it's not just a typical bad guy that steals purses and you gotta chase him in the dark alley. You know what I'm saying? There's like deeper meanings and levels to all the villains and everything they do. So yeah, I would say like in the scope of understanding where the villain is coming from and understanding why they do the things they do. Yes, yes, they have great dialogue and backstories.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree. He also has the most recognizable as far as like, when it comes to pop culture. Like I feel like a lot of people, even those who don't read comics, know who the Batman villains are. Like they know Joker.
They're iconic. They're
Freeze.
very iconic.
Yeah, definitely iconic. All right, so here's the biggest question for you. Who is the best Batman?
See, that's my opinion. A lot of people might think like this guy's crazy. Man, I have to give the Christian Bale, man. I have to
Really?
give
Okay.
Christian Bale. Yes, like, but you see, I'm saying that as an adult. I think as a kid, I would have definitely went to Michael Keaton. You know what I'm saying? And if you really look at the Batman back in the '80s, it's like there was nothing really in cinema that they could have gravitated to actually take something and make that. So it was on its own parallel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just had the raw source material and some of the old TV shows. Yeah, but they did their thing and it made the icon of franchise even better. You know what I'm saying? Like moving forward, I think Christian Bale version took that the 1989 Batman took that, put its own spin on it for the same kids who grew up on that one. You know what I'm saying? It was like more of the mature version of that Batman, and I kind of really enjoyed that story. It was like it was very well written and displayed.
And Christian Bale was definitely good. I feel like he kind of maybe went a little too much when he had the actual costume on. Like he was a good villain, you know.
It's like he got into character so crazily, right?
Right?
And,
Yeah.
I read somewhere too. They said that when they were asking people like where did the voice come from, and they said as soon as he came out with the full costume, he just like went into character, and it was just crazy. The voice came on the spot, like it was impromptu. That's what they said. I don't know. I could believe that from what you're saying there too, because a lot of people think like he kind of overdid some of the acting in it, but I kind of enjoyed it, you know.
No, yeah, he's definitely. I mean, to me, he's second best. My favorite is Michael Keaton,
Hmm.
and I think just when you look at him as Bruce Wayne, maybe you don't get the feeling that he's Bruce Wayne, but I think him as Batman, I think he nailed it. Like even with the voice and his demeanor and everything,
Yeah,
he
he was a dope
just
Batman.
yeah
Definitely.
yeah he just I think he captured kind of that dark aura that Batman
Oh
is.
yeah.
Christian Bale did it well in a different universe, if you will. You know,
You could say that. You could
yeah,
say that. You could say
yeah,
that. And again, as I was saying, is like I just feel Christian Bale was just the interpretation of what Batman is grown up for us. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Like,
yeah, yeah,
you know, he just took it to another level, and they just took the script, the storytelling, the villains, and everything to a different level when they did Dark Knight. So both films are definitely for both Batmans, for the two films, they're definitely on their own stance. So I think for me, Christian Bale is number one, and Michael Keaton is number two.
Now we see Robert Pattinson is going to be Batman in the next film.
Mm.
Uh, Ben Affleck not doing it anymore. I kind of liked Ben Affleck as Batman. I thought he exceeded my expectations, which, to be honest, I didn't really have high ones with him in the role, but I thought he did pretty well. Um, is Batman a hard role to cast?
I think it is, man.
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree
it
with you.
is. I really think it is. And again, it goes back to the original Batman, man. It's like
Yeah,
it's so hard to like compare all these other versions of Batman to the original. That's why I feel like Christian Bale did a superb job, like in all of them, like, you know, coming from the beginning. Like, I feel like he was the one that actually shined the most. And Affleck did his thing. I kind of like the way that he brought a different sense of Batman, more of the beaten down, broken, and then get back hard Batman, because he buffed up for the role and everything. So it was kind of cool seeing that. I think a lot of the backlash that he got was mostly due to the script. To tell the truth, like,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just the quality of the movies as opposed
yeah,
to how he actually did.
yeah, and you know, fans, like, come on, man, like, let's be real, like, let's go back, because like everyone is giving this guy, like, you know, crap right now. Like, everybody's like, oh, Robert Pattinson is going to play Batman. Oh, is it going to be like Twilight with all the glitter and all these other things? But let's not forget, like, the same fans were complaining when Michael Keaton was casted. They complained a lot.
and the same fans also complained about Heath Ledger, and admittedly,
Yes.
you know, I was one of them. When I found out, I was like, Heath Ledger, and then look what happened with that. You know,
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, man. I remember when they announced it, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, who, what? Like, why would they write this? Who's gonna, like, I was thinking, like, this is not gonna be anything. It's like, I just thought the mere minimum of anything going into the theater, and I can like attest to it, man. When I left the theater, my mind was blown. I couldn't believe it. I was like, yo, he proved me wrong, man. Everything about that movie was like on point. Every beat of that movie was on point. It was a work of art. So I'm optimistic about the new role of Batman. I kind of feel the same way as, like, oh my God, this guy. I don't know, but let's see what happens, man. He could prove us wrong. He could prove us wrong.
no, he very well could, and I think, you know, my disappointment with it comes more from just the debacle that's been the DCEU, and, you know, Ben Affleck pulling out because he was going to direct
Yeah,
the next Batman movie, and
yeah,
he's a good storyteller.
he is, man.
So
He is.
the movies that he directed were all really, really good. And
Yeah.
when he pulled out, I was just like, ugh, you know, I just felt like another nail in DC's coffin.
I know.
Um,
But if you look at it too, like, you know, like the web casting, I don't know if you heard about this, but they said that Andy Serkis is actually scheduled to play the Penguin.
I heard that he's going to be involved in it. I don't know what role he's playing though.
But I mean, if he's the
That'd be good,
Penguin,
though.
that's fire. That's fire right there, man. If he's
Yeah,
going to be the Penguin, because Andy Serkis is like a dope actor as well. Like, you know what I'm saying, the mocap and all that. Like, he becomes the character that he's portraying. Like, he really dives deep into the role. So I don't know. Like, it so far it seems very interesting, the cast that they're choosing for this. So I'm optimistic about it. But I think most of the hardcore fans, they're gonna be tight.
yeah. Well, no, like you said, that's fans.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into Batman from 1989. It came out June 16th, 1989. So about a week ago was the 30th anniversary, 30 years
Right.
since that movie came out. $35 million budget, made $411 million. So did pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, that did very well.
71% Rotten Tomato score from critics. That's pretty low.
Yeah.
And 84% from the audience. What is it with critics? Like, I just don't get it. Like, they hate on movies that fans tend to love, and then the ones that we hate, they give the highest ratings to.
Like, do people even take him seriously anymore? I don't know, man. Like, I remember the. So we're gonna say sorry.
No, I was just saying I don't like. I never ever really agree with critics at all.
I don't know. Is it politics? Like, what's up with that? I never understood that.
It probably is. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, because when it comes to like Oscar season, that's when all the movies that nobody's ever heard of starts getting
Uh-huh.
all this critical praise, and then they
Exactly.
start winning the Oscars. But it's like, we've never heard of these films. They didn't make any money. So there's probably a lot of politics involved with that. But 71 is too low for this, I
I
think.
think it is actually because again, if you look at it, like okay, so how much did they give to like the Dark Knight and everything else after that?
I'd have to look it up, but I know it's pretty high. I
But
don't
that's what I'm
remember.
saying,
Yeah,
and you gotta respect it, man. You gotta respect the fact that they built this. The soundtrack to it was like new, the the theatrical and everything. Nothing had like the only thing they had was the main source of the comic book. They had no cinema. There was no other film before it that actually that had a like a pillar that they could stand on or take reference from, and they did everything from what I remember. They shot everything in 3 to 4 months. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the script was on the fly.
right.
So,
And
and it was still better than more than half of the things that's coming out to like today that takes them what like 8 months, 9 months to make. Like I think yeah, they definitely didn't do justice to that with the critic score.
no, and like you were saying, they didn't have anything to base on besides the comics because
Exactly.
the Batman before that was Adam West and that campy TV show. You know?
Yo, I love Adam West, man. I love Adam West as Adam West. Like
Oh yeah, no, Adam West is great, but that show from the
exactly.
'60s is not Batman to
That
me.
was a big jump from Adam West to Michael Keaton. That's a big jump,
Yeah, and
right?
just the difference in how it's presented, like it's like night and day. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
I talked to some older people who grew up on that show, and they're like, oh, but Adam West was the best, and that show was great. And I was like, but it's not Batman. It's too campy.
And then you have people that say, "Well, it's from a comic book," but clearly they never read the
No,
comic book.
no, they never read the comic.
Never read the comic book. I'm like, what's campy about a kid witnessing his parents dying, man? Like,
Yeah, no,
you know what I'm saying? Like, come on. And again, the parallels they do with the villains, like um, I think this was the first time, in film wise, that the Joker and Batman had dialogue engaging between how they're the same and they made each other.
right.
So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It definitely has to have a higher position on that chart.
absolutely. Was directed by Tim Burton, starring Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, Billy D. Williams, and the late Jack Palance. So you mentioned that fans didn't like Michael Keaton being casted, and that's actually very, very true because based on what I was looking up, when Tim Burton and Michael Keaton both were hired for this movie, they were hired based on the success that Beetlejuice had, which came out the year prior. Tim Burton was actually hired in '86, but when Beetlejuice
Oh,
came out and had so much success, that's when they actually greenlit it, and they were like, okay, this is the way that we're going to go.
oh,
Fans sent 50,000 petition letters to Warner Brothers to stop this from happening because they did not like the fact that Tim Burton was the director and that Michael Keaton was going to star as Batman because they viewed him as a comedic actor.
hold on. So they sent letters. So they
They,
actually took the time to write. They
yep,
took
they
the time to
sent
write
letters.
and everything. Nah, bro. You see, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And it's parallel. It's parallel to this dude, Robert. It's parallel to him right now because everyone is like up in arms. Oh my God, the guy from Twilight. It's gonna be trash. All these other things, but who knows, man? As I said, if Andy Serkis, if it's true they got Andy Serkis part of it, like, come on, like, I feel like the choice of the cast is very particular, and let's just see how it goes. But 50,000 letters is crazy. And
Yeah.
did they did they read all 50,000?
I doubt they did. But it's a good thing they didn't listen to the fans because we got one of the most classic Batman movies of all time. So
Oh yeah, definitely, man. You
yeah,
see, there you go. Sometimes you just can't listen to the fans. Sometimes
no,
we don't know what's good for us.
no, we definitely don't. But if you look at alternate casting, people that they looked at for the Batman role, Harrison Ford, Charlie Sheen, Kevin Costner, Mel
Mm.
Gibson. But the guy who really almost got to play Batman before Michael Keaton was Bill Murray.
Bill Murray.
Now, who's making that decision?
Hold on, let me see this. Bill Murray as Can you even see the trailer for that? Bill Murray as
I can't see it at all. Like, there's no way that I could picture Bill Murray being Bruce Wayne or Batman. Like, Bill
Yo,
Murray is too funny.
who are these people making these decisions, man? Like, do they just like pick names from a hat?
Yeah, that's what it seems like, right? They're just like, pick a name out of that. Okay, let's try to get this guy. It's like, well, hang on a second. How do you get Bill Murray? I don't get
Bill
it.
Murray's dope. Don't get me wrong. I love Ghostbusters and all the films they did.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Come on, no, that I don't see it. Unless they were trying to do that, like, make it funny, like the dry, sarcastic humor funny, but it's, again, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense at all.
No.
And
I wonder if he would have. I wonder if he would have had the same attitude and mentality that Michael had on set when, the script was basically written on set. And it's like, okay, you got to say this and that. He might get like frustrated with that,
Right. Yeah. Well, he's been known to be, just based on what I've read, known to be difficult to work with sometimes. So.
Oh, okay. See, so then there you go.
Yeah. Also, Eddie Murphy was considered as Robin.
No, that's crap right there.
Yeah, that's Warner Brothers, they really pushed hard for Robin to be in it. All the studio and the producers, they wanted Robin in this one, and Tim Burton fought against it. And then they wanted Robin in Batman Returns, and Tim Burton fought against that as well. They actually casted Marlon Wayans as Robin for Batman Returns.
Yo, I read that somewhere, and I thought it was a joke.
No, it's a real thing, because they actually gave him the role, and Tim Burton fought against it and said, we're not using Robin for this one. He can be used in the next one. And then, of course, Tim Burton didn't even do the one after Return. So that never happened. But
I'm trying to think of Marlon Wayne as Robin right now. And you see, this is one of those like episodes on Black Mirror. It's like, this is like an alternate universe thing. It's like, I have no idea how that will work, man. I just can't see it. Just like how Will Smith was supposed to be Neo, I cannot see that.
Yeah,
no matter how much people talk about it, I just can't see it.
Well,
so
that role was written for him, and he said no, because he said the same thing. He's like, I just don't see it.
Yo, we see there you go, man. Everything happens for a reason.
Exactly.
But again, like Eddie Murphy as Robin, though.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense, And we all love Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy definitely has range. He doesn't have to be in comedic roles all the time.
And this is like 80s, 90s Eddie Murphy. So you imagine if Robin had the Eddie Murphy laugh. That was a dead giveaway. That's a dead giveaway, man. No matter how many layers of mask you wear, you just did that laugh. It's like, oh, I know who that guy is. And you just piece everything together.
Yeah. No, he's not fooling anybody at that.
Nah. That's that one right there. That one is like hitting me hard. Eddie Murphy as Robin. Wow. Maybe one day we'll see that, man.
Yeah.
he could do the voice in the animated series. Like, hey, there you go.
There you go. You could do that, yeah. As far as the Joker, there was also a lot of people considered for that role. James Woods, John Lithgow, Tim Curry, I think would have been interesting.
Tim Curry as the Joker. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but the guy who really wanted it and lobbied hard for it was Robin Williams. That would have been interesting too.
I could see Tim Curry do it though.
I could. Well, I mean, we all know Tim Curry. He's most famous for being Pennywise the Clown, and he was great.
That would have been actually twisted to see that. Wow.
Yeah, I think that would have been, if it wasn't going to be Jack Nicholson, Tim Curry, I think would have been a pretty good choice for them.
Yeah, he really got the smile and everything.
But apparently the writers and even the creators of Batman always had Jack Nicholson in mind. So even though they tried looking at these other people for the part, it looks like it was always going to be Jack Nicholson no matter what.
Who was there was somebody else you had on the list.
Brad Dourif was also a guy. And Brad Dourif is he is most famous for voicing Chucky from Child's Play.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that too, because I'm just remembering him back, because you have to look at these people back in the 80s, right? So
yeah,
just looking back at that, I could see him being a little twisted a little bit. He may actually come off a little bit as the current Joker that we have, or
Yeah,
we had,
right.
he could have been that, but maybe that would have been a little bit too advanced for the audience at that time, though. I'm thinking, because I remember reading up on a lot of people were actually complaining that it was so dark and gory.
That
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
that
So
is that's true. Yeah, people. But that's Tim Burton. That's his vision as a director. Everything is just dark and like kind of interesting settings. So yeah, I know when Batman Returns came out, I read a review that Roger Ebert did, and he asked the question: Is Tim Burton the right director? But I think Tim Burton, when you rank the Batman movies, his are always close to the top of the list. I know we always put Christopher Nolan at the top now,
yeah,
but
I
right
know.
under that is Tim Burton. I
Yeah,
mean,
the source, man.
Batman Forever and Batman and Robin like don't exist to us because they're just so terrible, and
Even the costumes for those were a little
even the
terrible.
costumes were awful.
Oh
Um,
my god.
but what'd you think of speaking of Joker? What'd you think of Jared Leto as a Joker?
You talking about the new stuff coming on right now?
Though, well, you saw Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah. That I'm gonna say this. The trailer had me.
Oh yeah, the trailer had me too, for sure.
I was sold. I was like, yo, this is gonna be crazy. But then again, it fell flat.
Yeah,
I just, in my perspective, I just think again, it's another assassinated of character based on the script. You know, I
yeah,
think, I think if they had more time to actually gravitate towards the Joker and gravitate towards why he's doing it, you know what I'm saying? Have some sympathy of the mind of the villain. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that would have come up better. But to me, it was like everything about him in the film was like, oh, this will be cool, you know?
yeah,
Like, oh, he looks that way because it's cool. There was no purpose of it, really.
yeah. No, I agree. And Suicide Squad was just like a mess. But I even watched the extended version where they all the scenes that they took out of the Joker, put back in. But
Hmm.
it didn't make it any better. It was just like whatever. But I don't think they're going to be using the Joker in the next one. I think it's like you said, it's Penguin.
Yeah,
With
man, it's too hard, man.
so,
It's
yeah,
too hard. And it's too hard to beat that one.
it is
Like,
hard. And Heath Ledger. I mean, Jack Nicholson set a bar. Heath Ledger raised it, and it's like,
yeah, yeah.
who do you get to even? And that I think as I was watching Suicide Squad, watching Jared Leto, I felt like he was trying to imitate Heath Ledger to a point too.
Yeah, there was definitely some parallels in there, a little bit. Like you could tell, like but again, he maybe gravitated towards that source because that's what was presented to him.
Right.
So, who knows what they told him, but again, I think it was character suicide and assassination by the script. It could have been better.
All right. So getting back to the 1989 film, in your opinion, because that's what this is all about. This is all about fans' opinions. What makes that movie so memorable to us? Like I grew up on it. I've seen it. I couldn't even tell you how many times. I actually got to see it in the theaters this year because it's the
Oh,
80th Batman's 80th anniversary this year, and they re-released all of those movies in the theater. So I went and saw it, and it was really cool to see it on the big screen. The theater was actually kind of full too. People wanted to see it. They were clapping when it was over,
wow.
and
I've never seen it on the big screen, so that must have been dope, man.
yeah, no, it was pretty cool. So, what is it about this movie that's been able to stand the test of time?
One, the freaking costume, like
Yeah,
like
definitely.
I know a lot of people had issues with the whole stiffness of the neck, like in like every time he had to turn in peripheral visions or whatever, he had to like move his whole body.
Well, that's
But
because Michael Keaton, he said himself that he couldn't even move, and he had no choice but to do that.
yeah, I know, but still, man, it was so dope because it literally looked like something they ripped straight out from the comic book,
Right.
and it just looked so incredibly like cool. That is definitely one. The story was really good. Like
Yeah.
again, once again, they only ran with the source materials of the comic book, and they were able to create this whole world, and they could build this whole world and envision it with a good story and platform. That was pretty good. And it to you know, and to compare it to the movies of today, a lot of it runs parallel. You know what I'm saying? Even the Dark Knight. Dark Knight took a lot of scenes and inspiration from, Batman 1989. So definitely the story. Another one would be the soundtrack and the theme, the music. Um, like to this day, I think it's iconic. The music is iconic. To this day, you can just hear maybe a quick 10-minute clip, 10-second clip of it, and people will actually know that's actually Batman, just from just hearing that. And also it inspired the animated series. Like, it's iconic by itself. I think the whole thing just stands on its own.
Yeah, it's like you said, it gave us the animated series, which fans like us cherish, because the Batman animated series is great.
Oh man, fantastic.
But the Batman theme from the movie, that was Danny Elfman creating that. That wasn't borrowed from something else.
Exactly.
So that and to think like you said, when we hear that, we know what it is. But also soundtrack wise, I mean, Prince did the whole soundtrack, which I thought was, thinking about it, it's an interesting choice to have Prince do a soundtrack for Batman, but it worked for this.
I don't know. When I was a kid, I know people might laugh at this, but when I was a kid, I actually thought it was Michael Jackson. I kind of did, but it's like when I got older, I was like, oh, that's Prince. I thought it was Michael Jackson at first, but yeah, it was very interesting. But again, as I say, like everything that was, all the elements that they used to create that was not an accident. Everything had a solid purpose, and it just worked out. The music is timeless. The theme music is timeless. The costume design still stands to one of the best Batman costumes in film. And the story wise was great. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like this one is definitely gonna like be at the top. And as you said, in Rotten Tomatoes, they definitely should change that.
Yeah, they got to change that. And
they don't know what they're talking about.
No, and I think what makes it so timeless is when that movie came out, it had finally given fans the Batman movie that they wanted.
Oh yeah.
And it's movies are about a lot of things, but if you don't capture the essence of when you're adapting something, if you don't capture the essence of what the character in the story is, it's not going to work. And I think Tim Burton, even though he put his own little twist in it, his style, he still knew what he was adapting. He knew who Batman was supposed to be, and so did Michael Keaton. Yeah. And Jack Nicholson obviously did great as the Joker. So it was just watching it, you're like, yeah, this is how Batman should be.
Oh yeah, even his weapons, his gadgets.
Oh yeah,
the vehicles. Yeah. Come on, man! Like it's iconic. Yeah. Everything about that.
That Batmobile, the one they used in the Christopher Nolan trilogy is definitely, like, it's cool.
It is cool,
but nothing will ever compare to the actual Batmobile to me.
That's facts.
But yeah, like that's just Then they continued that with Batman Returns, and then of course then everything went downhill after that. We'll get into the sequels a little bit later on. But when's the last time you actually saw this movie?
Man, it's been a while.
It's been a while?
It's been a while. It's maybe been like about 2 years, maybe.
Do you have any moments, like your favorite moment that you can remember from the movie?
Oh, well, maybe what I can remember, like, off the bat would be maybe when Michael Keaton was like, the first time he introduced himself as saying, "I'm Batman." That was dope.
You just took the thoughts right out of my head, because I was going to say the same thing. Like,
yeah, that is dope, because, like, again, iconic, right? I am Batman. And what do we have now? Like, we have like the new versions of Batman saying the same thing and almost in the same tone. You know what I'm saying? Like, they set like a precedent to a lot of things, man.
Right.
Let's see. The final fight scene was pretty cool too. Especially to the confrontation of the Joker presenting to him was like, why are you trying to kill me? Like, you made me and I made you. That whole dialogue was kind of cool. You know what I'm saying? I enjoyed the scenes with the Batmobile and the Nightwing. That was pretty dope.
Yeah.
I remember those. Like, see, again, these are iconic things, and I feel like the film did justice to those scenes with those particular with tools and gadgets and stuff.
Yeah, it's that confrontation at the end between Batman and Joker. At that point in the movie, Batman had figured out that the Joker, before he was the Joker, obviously, was actually the guy who killed his parents.
Yeah, that was kind of dope.
Right.
The whole way they presented it too. Yeah.
Right, and that's obviously, in the comics that's not really the case. Like, that's something that they changed for the movie. But that's a good example of switching something up and it making sense.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense.
Right.
It made a lot of sense to that.
But like you said before, I mean, that part when in the beginning when Batman's on the roof and he gets those two muggers and he grabs them, and the guy says, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm Batman," and I was like, "Yeah, he's Batman."
Iconic.
Like, I believed it.
Iconic, man. Even the stance, like when he just comes up from the mist, you know what I'm saying? The way he does it, and when he raises up his cape. All that,
yeah, absolutely.
It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like silly or anything. Even to this, like watching it today, I don't feel like I'll be laughing too much if I did see all that. But I think like the acting, like during time, a lot of things you watch back in the past, you may think it was like the best thing ever, but then you see it today and it's like, what the hell is this? But I don't think that film will actually fall into that category as much.
No, definitely not.
No.
No, like I said, when I saw it. When I went to the theater to see it, I was laughing at Jack Nicholson because of how crazy he was. But no, the movie itself, it's just, it's really a great story for Batman. But we're going to take a quick break before we get into everything else and about the legacy of Batman and where it went after that and where it's going to go in the future. But before I do that, I got a question for all the listeners. I want you to tell me if you can name all of the actors who have played Batman, not just the movies. I'm going, talking about the shows too in the past. So,
that's a lot.
That's a lot. It's hard. It's pretty hard. So, think about that. Name all the actors who've played Batman, and you can answer that question at the Fans Perspective homepage at starsandcelebs.com. You can find me on Instagram, Fans Perspective Pod, and answer it there. And also, when you go into YouTube, you subscribe, and you can leave your comments and your answer in the link for the video as well. And while you ponder on that, we'll be back in a sec. All right, so moving on. Now let's get into what happened to Batman after Tim Burton was done. And we got John McTiernan taking over Batman Forever. Yeah, and I want to touch on what you said before when you said that there are some movies that we used to watch all the time as a kid, and now we watch it now as adults, and we realize how bad they are. Batman Forever was one of those movies for me.
Man. Oh, man. Like, I'm trying to remember like scenes from that. That to me, like, I don't know, like if you really gotta talk crap about like doing the adaptation of the Batman from comic book to film, it will be that, because I don't know what that was. It was just like comedy, but it was like, I don't know, it was a mess.
It was a mess, and then Batman and Robin was even worse. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, and
the one-liners with Mr. Freeze was alone. That alone was just killing me.
Yeah, his whole part was one-liners. Like that, Mr. Freeze in that whole movie was just one-liners. That's it.
You see, again, it goes again to what I was saying, is that when you lack having the proper dialogue and proper story with your villains, you're gonna miss out, man.
Yeah.
Because you need purpose. You just can't be doing things because it's cool. You know what I'm saying? I feel like they hit the mark with that on there, and a lot of another thing is the costumes too was like, it was just a little too colorful for me.
Yeah, it none of it fit at all. Like the
No.
setting, the costumes. I mean, they put nipples on Batman's suit.
Yeah, like why your nipples needed like extra layer? Why did they like to define that? I just didn't understand that part, man. And
Yeah,
the little jokes they had with the bat card, like
yeah,
never leave home without it. I'm like, okay, so all I gotta do is call the credit report to find out who you are, sir. Like, come
yeah.
on.
Yeah, none of it made any sense. Like the movie just both movies, Forever and Batman and Robin, just didn't make any sense.
Oh yeah.
And the reason why they switched from Tim Burton is because Batman Returns didn't do as well, so they thought, and it wasn't as well received. So they thought that they needed to switch it up.
Hmm.
And I mean, Batman Forever you had Val Kilmer taking over the role. They introduced Robin finally with Chris O'Donnell. Yeah, Jim Carrey is the Riddler, which was okay.
I like the Riddler in that one.
Yeah, I thought he's probably the only good thing about it.
Yeah.
And then Tommy Lee Jones, you can tell that he had no idea who Two-Face was supposed to be because it was just like, this is not Two-Face at all.
There was a few scenes that was like, is he supposed to be like a crazy version of the Joker or something? Like,
Yeah, exactly. He was just like another Joker, just complete misses. And we were just left kind of wishing for something to change for Batman, and then it finally did when Batman Begins came out and Christopher Nolan took over.
yeah, Batman Begins was definitely like the center point to where everything was changing, again, story wise and all.
Yeah, I mean the stories were great. They understood the content, they understood the characters, and the whole Dark Knight trilogy it just goes without saying how great it is. And then you kind of tie that into the DCEU,
Right.
and now we switch over to Ben Affleck, and we talked about that a little bit. But something that's interesting to me is that a lot of fans say that the Dark Knight trilogy killed off anything that the DCEU could have ever done with Batman. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't believe that. I really don't. Like, come on. there's so many ways they could take this. You know what I'm saying? Again, it just goes to show that fans, we don't know what's good for us all the time.
Right.
I understand why they feel they have to say certain things like that, but sometimes I just feel like we should just allow them to, prove us wrong sometimes. Some fans take it too serious, way too serious.
On the flip side of that, I would say that the Dark Knight trilogy did raise a bar.
Yeah,
that
definitely
will never be met, and it's going to be hard, I think, for people to accept anything else, because we're always going to expect the Dark Knight now.
See, yeah,
which is unfair. It's not really fair to do that,
because they have something to compare it to, and
right.
They're always going to do that. I just feel with every generation that comes in and they fall in love with the franchise, or they fall in love with Batman, I feel like we could see grounds of creating new things in different twists, different perspectives. And again, we just have to just give the writers and directors a chance, as long as they're not going to be doing, Mr. Freeze and all that,
right?
in that manner. You remember when they did Bane, and Bane was
God, he was like a zombie almost.
Yeah, I mean, in the comic, they kind of like gravitate to what the comic was doing, but it was too much, man. It was, I don't know. As long as they don't do that, we're good.
Yeah, because Bane and Batman and Robin is just, not who Bane's supposed to be, but
no,
it's I think like you were saying, we just gotta give it a chance sometimes. But the Dark Knight trilogy just created something that fans will always cherish, and it's
really hard.
It's hard to top that, and I think that's part of the reason why Ben Affleck was criticized when he was casted. Not his acting skills aside, he's still a good storyteller, and he from what I've heard, he's a Batman fan himself.
Yeah, he definitely said that.
Yeah, so he wound up doing a good job, and we're gonna have to see how Robert Pattinson does I think it comes out next year, right?
Yeah, it does. You remember in Batman versus Superman, Affleck was saying the same thing. He was like, he was reconsidering everything. He was like, they're gonna flame me for this, man. When he
Right.
read the script, like he told him too, man, because as a fan, like you understand the importance of portraying the character properly, because it's not just like a B-lister or a C-lister. It's like you have one of the prime characters in DC and in comic books, period. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's and when you have a character like that, you don't need to change it because it's already perfect. We just want to
Exactly.
see it adapted that way.
Yeah. And again, it's I don't know. I just feel like it's not that hard or crazy to just tell a story in a different way. You don't need to change people too much. You don't need to change some of the key elements of what makes the character who he is, especially from the core foundation. You don't need to change these things so much. And I feel like that's the thing a lot of screenwriters mess up with. Like they put their own perspective too much into the characters, and they fail to see that some of the things that they change is actually what the fans, like a large majority of the fans, actually gravitated towards and liked about that character or about a scene or event.
And that's something that drives me nuts about certain directors and producers and writers and even actors that feel like it has to be their vision and the way that they see it.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're creating your own character, then do that. But if you're adapting something else, you can't do that.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't belong to you.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't belong to you. So you're changing something that doesn't belong to you, and it's one of the reasons why I hated The Last Jedi so much.
Oh yeah.
Because Ryan Johnson was like, and there's videos, tons of videos of him talking about it, where he's like, it's my vision. And it's like, but it's not. It's not your material.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that, what winds up happening is exactly what happened with The Last Jedi, where you piss people off, you piss the fans off, and then they get turned off to anything else that you're going to do next.
Yeah, and then they walk around like, I don't know what happened. Like, of course you don't know, right?
Right? Yeah, we don't know what happened. Like they kind of try to turn it around on the fans sometimes
Yeah.
and say that we're the problem, but it's like, no, like it's their own arrogance, and really that's what it is. It's their arrogance, and it's what they're the problem. But what else is going to be Batman 1989? What else is going to be its legacy? I mean, we talked about how it inspired so much, and it was the film that we wanted. But what else do you think that legacy will be?
I gotta think about that one.
Because here's one thing that it's. I mean, it is related, but you're familiar with Batman Beyond?
Yeah.
So fans really want a Batman Beyond movie made. And how cool would it be if we got an older Bruce Wayne, because that's what Batman Beyond is. It's an older Bruce Wayne.
Mind blown. I already know where you're going with this.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that would
Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, but training a younger Batman.
Bro, that would be fire. That'd be flames.
Right.
Like, actually, I'm actually kind of like shocked that they never considered to make a Batman Beyond. You know what I'm saying? Especially since Batman Beyond came after that, because in the animated series, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The original Batman animated series was inspired by Batman 1985, so it makes sense, right? It goes parallel to what we're saying right now, so it kind of does make sense. I'm actually kind of surprised that they have never even considered this. So
yeah,
that would make an interesting twist. That would make a very interesting twist. Like, that's actually cool.
It would, and I've even seen some I guess memes, if you want to call it that, of Robert Pattinson as Batman, and then showing Michael Keaton as his mentor. So fans
did that.
Fans definitely want that to happen, and that's because of the impact that Michael Keaton had as Batman and that movie overall had.
Chris, I never thought of that. So now you telling me this is like, I'm thinking about this movie now, and the whole cast is not even out yet. So who knows?
We don't even know the story.
Who knows, man? This could be Batman Beyond. That would be fire.
Yeah, because we really don't know anything about the Batman. That's what the movie title is for next year. We don't even know if it's really tied into the DCEU.
Right.
All we know is that Robert Pattinson is Batman and Andy Serkis is in it, and I think that's pretty much it. I think we know who the director is. I can't tell you who that is though. I'd have to look it up. But
Yeah, one of the most iconic things in Batman Beyond was the level of tech with the body armors.
yeah,
Those were like some next level stuff, and I could definitely see it like happening on like right now on the big screen, because like the nanotechnology stuff, like we're actually perfecting with CGI and visuals. I could see them pulling this off, man. And if you really think about it, Batman Beyond Batman, he was more slender. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
He
Hmm.
was way more slender. This guy is more slender. Yeah, there's parallels between them. So yeah, that would be very cool if they went that direction, and it just pays homage again back to the original, which is dope.
Yeah, yeah, and that would definitely. I think fans would flip out if it turned out that that's what they're doing. But
Oh, they will crush the box office with that one, man.
oh
They
yeah, without a doubt.
rush it.
Any final thoughts you want to add about Batman?
Um, I'm really optimistic and to see what's in store and what's next. I don't have any doubts that it's going to be anything worse than what we've endured growing up in the 90s.
Right.
So I think the worst is out of the field, and I think is just perfecting it. And I think that again that they have enough source materials and people around that think differently in writing sense to create more original stories, if you could say, you know. Because apart from the comic book, what's what I like about the DC universe is that they get to tell stories in their own versions. You know what I'm saying? Their own ways. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean it shouldn't be difficult to not make, or I should say, it shouldn't be difficult to make a good comic book movie in general because there's so much history, there's so much material to use, and but I think the good thing is that the MCU, we talk about setting standards. The Marvel has set a standard, and if anybody's going to make a comic movie, you're going to look at what the MCU did and realize that staying true to the material
Exactly.
is just going to get you to the right place. So
Exactly. And having some more human elements implemented in there, you
right,
know what I'm saying? Because that's what we gravitate to. We gravitate to things that's familiar. You know what I'm saying? We
definitely.
like I'm seeing that they're realizing that too. Like we're fans of villains. A lot of us are fans of the villains. So make good villains and good stories, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a good point. We love villains. We love the bad guys.
Yep.
Uh, and I think it goes back to Dark Knight. I think people really liked the Joker more than they did Batman in that movie.
Oh yeah.
'Cause, I mean, how could you not? Almost. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm hopeful that I wanted the whole DCEU to turn things around, and they kind of have. Wonder Woman was great. Aquaman I thought was great. I enjoyed Shazam, so I'm hoping
Haven't
that,
seen
that
Shazam yet.
yeah, it was pretty good. Like,
Cool.
I was surprised with it. So hopefully they can continue that momentum.
Hmm.
And Batman, he's a big deal, so you can't screw it up.
Exactly.
Sean, man, thank you so much for joining me.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed our back and forth here. So yeah, thank you so much for taking out the time to sit and talk this out with me.
All right, thanks for having me, man.
You're gonna come back soon, I hope.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, all right, thanks everybody for tuning in, and remember to visit the Fans Perspective homepage at starsandcelebs.com. Leave your comments on SoundCloud where you're listening to this, and don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and leave your comments there as well. My name is Chris Laporto, and again, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time on the Fans Perspective.